Mr. President, most mornings I get up kind of early and I go for a run on the mall, run by the Capitol, this beautiful building, the Senate House, the People's House. Recently it was open for all of us to enjoy, and now, as most Americans know, it's ringed with gates and razor wire and troops. It looks a little bit like the Green Zone in Baghdad, not the U.S. Capitol. And here's the thing, when I go running, I do this most mornings, I did it this morning, you see these wonderful National Guard men and women who are serving their country still here behind the fence, behind the razor wire. And they're literally about every 50 yards, sometimes closer, standing, post, all night. All night. Hundreds of them. American soldiers. And they're doing their duty, and we all appreciate it. I talk to them, and I just say, hey, how you guys doing? How's morale? You want to be here? You think it's time to go home? I think it's time for you to go home, and I'm going to try and help you with that. Now look, most are stoic, they're tough, they're soldiers doing their job, but make no mistake, Mr. President, they want to go home. Stand in their post all night, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, every 50 yards. For what? For what? I don't think they know what for, and neither do I. Now, Mr. President, the assault that took place on our democracy on January 6th was a dark day for our country, no doubt. I'll remember that the rest of my life. But the members of Congress did something really important that same day. We reconvened right here in the U.S. Senate, even amid some of the broken glass and smashed doors in the House. We finished our constitutional duty to count the Electoral College votes. The rioters that day, who should be prosecuted, did not win. That was important. But that was 3 months ago. And our nation's capital is still decked in layer upon layer of barbed wire and metal fencing. More than 5,000 troops still roam the Capitol, instead of being where they know they should be, home with their families, back to their jobs. These are National Guard members, so their work is obviously being disrupted, and back to their states and their communities. The cost of keeping them here since January at this juncture, Mr. President, is over $500 million. But here's the thing. I pay close attention to these issues. I keep asking about, okay, I understand this. They were here after the 6th. They're here for the inauguration. But what's the threat now? Give me an intel threat, a credible intel threat that requires 5,000 troops and razor wire all across the U.S. Capitol, the People's House. What's the credible intel? I've not gotten any credible intel that I'm aware of. Now, we learned yesterday, Mr. President, that the Secretary of Defense approved the request for these soldiers to be here for another 60 days. But here's what you didn't hear about in those reports. I have a lot of respect for the Secretary of Defense. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned in my remarks earlier, I introduced him at his confirmation hearing. But this decision, whether there should be troops here or not, is actually not his decision. It's our decision. It's the members of Congress's decision. That's the threshold issue. Should we still have the troops here? It's the majority leader's decision. It's the Speaker of the House's decision. So why do we still have troops here? Why is the Capitol still in high security lockdown? I think it would be really important for the majority leader to come to the floor and not only tell us, but tell the troops, tell the American people what's going on. Remember, this is not our house. This is not our building. This belongs to the people of America. We're privileged to be here, certainly. But we need answers. And I'll tell you else who needs answers. The troops need answers. My own view is we need to get these troops home. We need to tear down the wall. We need to open the gate. And this is not just my view. This is a widely held view. Democrats and Republicans all agree. Mr. President, just look around the Capitol Hill neighborhoods. These signs are everywhere. So are other signs. Free the people's house. Don't fence the Capitol. What's happening right now, we all love our military. Our military normally is a symbol of strength for America. But right now, the military here is not a symbol of strength. We are telling the world through razor wire that American democracy is fragile, that it's afraid. American democracy is not fragile, and it's not afraid. And so, Mr. President, these troops are a symbol that, not just to Americans, but to the rest of the world, that the Capitol lives in fear or weakness. There was evidently some kind of vague, it wasn't credible, threat on March 4th from some nut job group, QAnon, however the heck you pronounce it. And we had the entire House on the other side of this great building call it quits, went home, said we're not going to do any work. That's exactly the wrong answer. That's not what we did on January 6th. So what we need, Mr. President, is we need our leaders in the House, in the Senate, to come down here and tell us why we are still in an armed camp. One camp can't help but wonder if there's something else going on here. Why do the leaders of the House and Senate still want thousands of troops and razor wire around the Capitol? I hope they don't fear the people they represent. I don't fear my constituents. Is there intel that they have that we don't know about? How long can we expect this green zone in our nation's capital to continue? The American people need answers, but here's the key issue. At the end of the day, this is a law enforcement problem. It's not a military problem. To make it a military problem is dangerous. If the Capitol Police need more officers, then let's have that discussion. But we are a citizen-controlled government, and our military, whom I respect so much, should not be used for an extended period of time here on the Capitol grounds to handle a law enforcement issue, especially at the most important symbol of democracy in America, probably the most important symbol of democracy in the world. So, Mr. President, here's what we need to do. It's time to tear these walls down, open these gates, and send our brave National Guard troops home.